Hello there. Welcome to Noon Prayer Watch. It's Friday. The weekend is here. Shabbat Shalom. Hope y'all all had a great week. This is Jacob coming to you from Osaka, Japan. Thank you for tuning in or catching up on the replay. That's always appreciated as well. Okay. So, how's the weather where you are? It's getting a little hot out there, I believe. Out here where we live in East Asia, it is what we call tsuyu, or the rainy season, or typhoon season, and basically that just means it's always raining, or it always feels like it's going to rain, you know what I mean? And so that's where we're at right now. It's hot, and not hot, but sticky, humid. My hair gets crazy all the time, no matter what you do to it. That kind of weather, you know how it is, especially those of you from Louisiana. But it is what it is. You can see my friend back here, my plant on the wall. When he's not back there being a background asset, he's out here on the veranda on the air conditioner with his friends, and he's loving this weather. He's getting all sorts of water and sunlight and all that kind of stuff. And it's going to get a lot hotter, of course. The rainy season is going to end. It's going to be hotter next month, and then typhoon season comes. Typhoons are hurricanes just in the Pacific Ocean. It's the same exact thing, basically. But enough about the weather. Here to talk about some stuff that the Lord has put on my heart. When I was preparing for this week, thinking about what I could share, I remembered, of course, a couple weeks ago, we talked about the power of testimony and how important that is. Both, not just for other people, just to, let people know what the Lord is doing for you, but also for yourself. Because it helps you remember what the Lord has done for you. And when you constantly share your testimony, you are constantly reminded of what the Lord has done for you. And that helps the individual as well as the other people that you build up and encourage with that. And so I had some stuff happen this week, actually, and I wanted to share with you. And they're not like, life-changing things, but they're very, very good reminders about how good God is and how he knows what you need before you even ask. And that's kind of the theme of the sort of two-ish testimonies that I have today. Matthew 6:8. God knows what you want before you ask. And I don't know if you guys, if those of you out there that might know me personally, I'm fast. In the sense that I want to get stuff done quickly. I want to finish quickly. And sometimes, I make a plan. Okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And when things don't go according to my plan, I get flustered. I get frustrated. I get antsy, get agitated, get anxious. I'm sure maybe some of you out there might be like that, or someone who is like that. And I am definitely one of those people. And if I don't focus myself and ask the Holy Spirit for help, I get into this sort of a state. And as we've been saying for a while now, this year is a very big year, of transition. A lot of things are happening, both in the world, but also for me personally, my life here, our ministry here, and what we are doing here in East Asia. There's a lot of big shifts happening. You'll hear more about them in the future. Tune in on Sunday to hear one of the big announcements that we have. You're not going to want to miss that. But anyway, you have to wait until Sunday. And yeah, so one big thing, I'm going to try to make this like simple as possible. I don't want to bore you with the details. I love sharing details, but I'm not going to go into all of that. But basically, my legal status in Japan, where I live, is changing. I'm going from something sort of stable to something very stable. I'll get to more of that in a minute. But first thing that happened is this. One of the things that I do ministry-wise here, this might not sound like that big of a deal, but I am a driver. And, in America, that might be like, okay, so, but in America, everybody drives. So it's kind of a way of transportation is taken for granted. Everybody does it. If you can't do it, someone can easily give you a ride. Here where we live with buses and trains and all that sort of stuff, bullet trains and all of that, not everyone drives and not everyone has a vehicle. And even if you do, a lot of people don't have a lot of experience, and so it's kind of difficult to get around. And particularly where I live here in Osaka, it's the second biggest metro area in the nation, and it's crazy. Like, the roads are crazy. I always say, I call them the spaghetti roads, because when they planned the city, they just dropped spaghetti on a map, and that's how they made the roads. And there's there's bridges and underground roads and all the sorts of stuff, and people here are really aggressive, and so you gotta. It takes a lot of guts to drive. Even me, I've been driving here for a while, and it's still quite intimidating sometimes, especially when I go downtown. And one of the things I do is I do airport pickups. So if people come into the nation, I'll go to the airport and pick them up. And we have an international airport here, and that airport is on the opposite side of the prefecture or state, province area or whatever. So it's a bit of a trek to go all the way down there, and I love doing it. I love doing airport pickups. If you ever come, hit me up. I'll help you out. But we had at the church that I help out here in Japan, we have a guest speaker this weekend, and he and his family came to the airport on Monday, and so they asked me to go pick him up, which I was, of course, glad to do. Get to hang out with cool people when I get to do that kind of stuff. But it's also fun, and it's a way we can do ministry. We can help people get to where they need to go. You know what I mean? So get there, and of course get there on time, a little bit earlier, and I'm getting a little antsy because I have some other stuff I need to do, and it took them, immigration and luggage and all that kind of stuff getting out of the airport. It's a bit of a hassle sometimes, and so it took them about an hour to get out, and we finally got them. And I've been driving these roads for a while now, and I know them. I know how to get through the city, the crazy part, even the big urban thick trafficy part. And so we're going back, right? The plan didn't go according to what I thought it would. And this minister, I'm not going to say his name, I don't think that's important right now, but he's somewhat famous in America, I believe. And his whole thing is about the glory, experiencing the glory of God, having it manifest in the church, kind of old school. We had a lot of this stuff, especially, 10, 15, 20 years ago. He still does that. He has a lot of stories about angels and angelic encounters and things like that. That's just, what he does. And it was crazy because we're driving back, and of course, right after we get out of the airport, we see this big bus with the word angel on the side, right? It's like, whoa, that's interesting. But then, we're going back, we're driving through the city, and I know the way, I know the road, but we were taking him to his hotel rather than going straight back to my house, which is on the way, but have to stop off at a different area in the middle there. And so the navigation app that my wife was helping me use said, get off here, at this other road. And I'm like, really? I don't want to go there that way. I don't know what's that way. I don't know what's down there. I know this road will take us to where we need to go. But I hesitated. I obeyed the navigation application. We took a left into unknown territory there, and it takes us to this, I didn't even know these existed, but there's this really long tunnel under the city, a whole other interstate network I didn't even know about, all under the city. And so I don't know where I am. I can't see where I am. I don't know any of the familiar landmarks. I'm underground, and we're driving around under the city, and I'm getting a little frustrated, like, oh, where do we go? What are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to get out? This doesn't seem right. I think we're going the wrong way. And the app told us to get off this exit, but I missed it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm getting off here. And so I get off this random exit, and now I'm on the, surface, on the main ground. And we stop at a red light. I'm off of the interstate now, or the expressway, highway, whatever you call it, whatever country you're from. And this is crazy. I have a picture of this to prove it. We're sitting there, and there's a car in front of us. We're parked, and there's a sticker on this car, and it says glory. I have a picture of it right here. I took a picture. We were at a traffic light. Will it focus? Here we go. Glory. And I was like, because that's literally this guy's ministry. I was like, look at that picture there. Isn't that cool? And he's like, yeah, that's amazing. I'm just like, what are the odds of that happening? All of the delays and the wrong turns and random exits. And then I've never seen a sticker with glory on the back of a car in the 10, 20 years, the 12-ish years I've been in this nation. And I took that as a sign. I took that as a sign that, the Lord is, everything is under control. The Lord has his plan, his timing, his timetables. And when things don't go according to the way I think they should, when I got other stuff, I need to do, and I'm trying to get stuff done quickly to get there, and things don't go according to my way and I get frustrated, I don't need to do that. I just need to chill. And I heard this when I was thinking about, what to say this week. You fall into the Lord's timing, because you can't control things sometimes, obviously. And so once I saw that, and I felt like peace come over me, and it's like, it's okay. And I had other stuff to do, and I made it. Even with all the delays and everything, I made it. Everything was okay that day. And so you would think that such an experience, you'd go home, you think about it, you thank the Lord, and you learn from it, right? Sorry, there may be a children screaming outside my house here. You might think you learn about it, and you'd grow up, you'd mature, and you wouldn't have that struggle again, right? Well, didn't really do well on that front, because the very next day I was back in that same attitude, that same mindset. I have my schedule and I'm trying to get stuff done, and things weren't going according to plan. I was getting frustrated. I was getting agitated. So this is the second part of my testimony. This is the next day. This was Tuesday. And long story short, I said this a minute ago, but I'm trying to change my legal status, trying to get similar to what you would get in America. We call it a green card, where you can stay there permanently, basically. And you're not a citizen, but you can stay there, work there, and you're a stable, contributing member to society. And when you have this status, you get more favor with the government and, banks for loans or whatever, if you want to buy something really expensive like a house or a car, all that sort of stuff. And like I'm not at that place right now. There's a lot of conditions and requirements you have to meet, and I've met them finally after all of these years. So I'm in the process of securing this more stable legal status, and it takes a long time, and there's a lot of information, a lot of confusing information, and I've been working on this past half year or so, because this was the year I felt I was supposed to do it, supposed to go this direction. Takes a lot of research, a lot of advice, people saying you should do it, you shouldn't do it, these are the benefits, these are the cons, and I was getting, some people were saying you should do it later, you should wait a year because of this, and I was getting really like fed up with all of the noise, and I was just like, I don't care, we're doing it now. And so, how many of you out there, we have in America what we call the DMV. If you're not from America, maybe it's like when you get your driver's license updated or whatever. You got to sit in this place. It's a government-run facility, and they're really slow, and it takes forever, and it can be very frustrating for some people. And it's like that, like a whole week of that. I'm actually like 2 weeks of that. I'm going to City Hall, going to the insurance office, going to the pension office or Social Security office for you Americans out there. And honestly, I actually like this kind of stuff. I have a grace for this kind of like navigating the red tape machines. And like I mentioned earlier, I help transport people. I also help people navigate the red tape. Like when new missionaries come, if they're going to stay here for a long time, I'll take them to City Hall and get them registered, and having them sign up for this and that, health insurance, all that kind of stuff. And it might sound boring to you. I guess it might be, but I enjoy it. I enjoy helping people with that and navigating and figuring it all out. So I've been sitting in these places for a couple of weeks, filling out this form, telling me, you need to go get that form, you need to go to this person and get that, you need to pay this money here. And it's just crazy all over the place. But I finally got through it all. After a while, I had all of the papers that I needed, and I was done for my part. But there was a few more papers that I needed to get from somebody else. And other people are just not like me. They're not like, I got to get this done ASAP to move on. They have other stuff, responsibilities. Of course, people are different, right? But I got to a point where I was ready to move on, take the next step in my life, in my ministry, whatever, my destiny, and I couldn't take the next step because I had to wait on somebody else who had other priorities that are obviously, it's understandable, that are higher than my needs. And so that all got done. They sent the papers to me, the person that I needed the papers from. They live in a different area. And then it disappears in the mail. The mail here is very good. It's very, very reliable and fast. And at the most, things take, it's not a big nation, and especially in the central urban areas, it takes no more than 2 days to send anything anywhere. And it got lost. Like they said, I sent it yesterday, it'll be there tomorrow. And it was almost a week later. I was like, where is it? And so I called the person up and I was like, the papers haven't arrived. And this person said, what? They were like freaking out. It should have arrived like last week at some time. And so this person said, oh, I'll send them again. I'll make copies and send them again. And it's one of those things like you're waiting for something to happen. And as soon as you start complaining or whatever, then it finally happens. And that's exactly what happened this time too. I got home. I was out and about, driving, like I said, on Monday, and I called the person and I said, I need these papers. They're not here yet. And so as soon as I get home, check my mail, there they are. I had to call them and contact them and said, oh, don't send them. We got them. They actually finally arrived. And so finally I had all of the papers. So on Tuesday, I'm still frustrated. I'm still agitated after all of this time, all of this effort I've put forth. I can finally go to the Immigration Bureau and apply for what I need for this new status, this green card sort of thing. And not to make things any more complicated, but so I have this whole thing, doing this, almost done. I have another application process I need to do over here that I'll have to do later this year. And I was kind of annoyed that I had to do both of these things. Really, you should only need to do it one time, but for the situation I am, I have to do it twice. And not looking forward to it, but it is what it is. You just got to do what you got to do. And I had resolved myself. Okay, I'll do that, in August or September or sometime. I'll have time to do that back over there, at that point. So I get to the Immigration Bureau and we're going through the process. I'm giving all my papers and she's like, oh, you need to do this other application as well later this year because this application won't finish in time and you need to do this one to get you to that point, basically. And I was like, yeah, I know. It's like, can I do it later? She said, yeah, you can do it by like September or something. It's like, okay, cool. So I go off and I do something else, and then she starts calling, like 2 minutes later, she starts yelling at me in the middle of, all of these people from all these nations in this room. She's like, number 43, Jacob, come back. So I go back and she's like, actually, today is the first day you can apply for that second thing. So just go get these papers over here and fill out this application and you can do both at the same time. And I was like, really? Are you sure? And I looked at it's exactly like you can do it within a 3-month window. And this Tuesday was the first day that I could apply for the second thing. I didn't have to come back and do it later. And maybe that doesn't seem like a big deal to you, but it is a big deal to me because it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, a little bit of money too, to go everywhere and drive everywhere. Like, $100, $200 or so sometimes. And so I could save a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of finances. Not that it's not like a ton, but I was already there. And when that happened, I was like, okay, God, I see what you're doing here. All these delays, the mail, everybody else involved, all my confusion trying to figure all of this out, it delayed me to this point. But it's not actually a delay. I'm falling into your timing. And actually, now that I have done it your way, it's going to save me energy and resources and time in the future because I don't have to go do all that other stuff again. Probably they might send me a message saying, hey, go get these papers and mail it to us or something. That happens sometimes. But as it stands, things are a lot smoother when you do things on the Lord's timing rather than your own. And that is why you don't need to become frustrated or agitated because He knows what's best. He knows what you need before you ask, Matthew 6:8. There's no need to be flustered or agitated or frustrated because that's not going to get you anything. You don't know everything. You can't control everything. You have to just have the peace of the Lord, the fruit of the Spirit that we got to grow in us and fall into His timing and just go on from there, right? And so that's where I'm at this week. I don't know where you're at. And this is basic stuff you learn in church all your life as a kid, but that's something I struggle with. And if it's something that you struggle with, I hope that my story has encouraged you in some sort of way. It was a small victory for me, but it's a big deal. So thank you, Lord, for your goodness and for your timing and for teaching me and how to be patient. because it's something you can never have enough of, right? So if you're like me out there, my encouraging message to you is to chill out. Take a chill pill, take a step back, breathe slow, let God take control, fall into his timing. And on that topic, this is the second thing I'd like to share today. On this topic of chilling out and letting God do his thing. This year so far, we're about to hit the midway point here, about to enter into the 7th month of July. It's been a little stressful. A couple hours ago, it's I'm on a different time zone, so it was morning for me, but there was this debate on TV, maybe you heard about it, between President Trump and President Obama. And I know I don't like to get too political on here sometimes. There's other people out here on this channel that does all that. But I wanted to say a few things because, wow, that was a debate. That was a debate. And if you don't know my background, I actually used to, when I lived in America, I worked with politicians. I worked in elections for every party. We were the group I was with was nonpartisan. We, if you paid us for a commercial or whatever, we'd make it for you, right? So I've worked with all sorts of interesting people, very interesting people. Lord help us. You get as I think Pastor Tim says, the politicians that we have reflect the people. I'll just say that. But yes, and I also have a background in debate. When I was in university, I used to do that a lot. And so I actually watch debates as almost like a spectator sport. I know I probably should be a little bit, it's the stakes are very high here. The whole world will be changed by which man will win or not. But I enjoy watching them to see, what the candidates are going to say, how they're going to respond to such questions. And it was a very odd, weird debate because CNN, as you know, is they were the outlet that ran this debate. It was very well done, very well moderated. The questions were very good. They muted the mics. There was no audience, no interruptions, and so we could kind of focus on the meat and potatoes of the debate. But I was kind of freaking out because I was like, they're doing a bit too of a good job running this debate. They're actually kind of hitting President Biden quite hard. And look, you don't have to, if you're an honest person, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, I know most of you out there on one particular side than the other, but regardless of what side you're on, channels, different outlets, media outlets, they're biased one way or the other. Fox News is one way, CNN, MSNBC are the other way. I think, that's not a secret, and only intellectually dishonest people will disagree with that. And so CNN leans left. It's been a fact that everybody knows for quite some time. And you would think that they would want the candidate on their side of the aisle to look good and to appear to be cognizant in his right mind, and that was not the case tonight at all. And I think I've been reading the fallout and the response from the Democrats in reaction to President Biden's performance, and I have not seen anything positive. A lot of people are calling for him to be replaced by somebody else. That question is coming up, and I honestly think that CNN and other media outlets like Politico and such are purposefully showing this debate, making him look bad in order to get this conversation started, because I don't think that they have confidence that he can win in November. I thought that at first, but then as more stuff comes out, I see more debate over the debate. What happens? I am are they doing this on purpose? I can't read the hearts of men, but it really seems like it. They usually don't do this. They usually try to make things look better than they actually are. And that's not the case for this. I've never seen anything like this in all the years that I've been following politics and such. And ironically, this is consistent with the prophetic that we've been hearing. We've been hearing that President Biden won't be the candidate. How that happens, there's a lot of, I don't know. But the prophetic says this, and what's happening is what's happening. But that at the end of the day, he's not going to be the candidate, and that's what it's looking like, So that's really interesting. And if you're stressing out about all of that, stop. Don't stress out. kind of like what we've been saying. God knows what we need. He's in control. We need to follow in his timing. We need to align ourselves with him. We know that this was going to happen. We know these things. We've been hearing about it. It's been talked about for quite a while now. We're going to be okay, and the kingdom will advance no matter what happens, no matter what person gets into the office of the president. And we don't need to be surprised when the things that man has built begin to fail, because that's supposed to happen. If we go against or go away from what the Lord wants us to do, kingdom principles, how we run our societies, it's going to break down, and it will keep breaking down until we change, or we will suffer destruction. And we can't be arrogant in thinking that that's not going to happen to us. But regardless of what happens to society, what happens to civilization, to the government, the church will still be there. The kingdom will still be there. People who love the Lord, listening to the Lord, are still going to be there. And it's going to be okay, no matter what happens. Okay? And so the other night, I was sleeping, as you do at night, but I woke up, and it was in that kind of weird state. Sometimes you're like asleep, but you wake up for a minute, and you're trying to go back into that sleep mode, but you just can't because you're thinking about something, your mind's racing or whatever. And so it was kind of like I was not fully awake, but I was awake, and I was just thinking about a lot of different stuff about life and everything, and I was just kind of freaking out. I was just getting agitated. I'm trying to go back to sleep, but I just can't let this, stuff go. And I had a lot of fear on me for some random reason. And in the middle of all this, I heard the Holy Spirit say, this is what he said. He said that the fruit of the future will be sweeter than that of the past. Because I was thinking about the future and how, stressful it is and how dark it is and unknown, it's mysterious and unknown and what's going to happen and it's uncertain, and I'm being apprehensive. But he said that the fruit of the future will be sweeter than that of the past. And when he said that, when I heard this, and I'm still like half asleep, right? But I heard this, and peace just came over me. And it's kind of weird to think of a random positive thing in the middle of all of these kind of negative things. That's just where I was at. But peace came over me, and I immediately felt peace, and I felt relaxed, and I can't remember because it was in a sleepy mode. But I went back to sleep right after that. And after I'm awake and I'm thinking about it, I think I was at this point because life is daunting right now. I'm in my mid-30s, and my generation, the millennials, Generation Y, we're kind of taking over the world right now. Some of us are in 40s, mid-40s, and they're becoming leaders, and they're becoming of nations, of companies. They're changing the world. They're taking over. They're taking the torch from the generation before them, and it's a bit daunting, and it's a bit scary. Not really so much for myself. I mean, do you know people my age, how we are? Ew. Like the people that I love them. I love everybody. I love everybody. But man, the people I went to university with, like, we're gonna put these guys in charge. Are you sure? Is society gonna still be around the next couple of decades? I don't know. It's gonna be okay. Kind of freaks me out a little bit thinking about that, but it's gonna be okay because God is good. And here's what's gonna happen: we do things God's way, everything's gonna work out. And if we don't, things are gonna get bad. But that will pressure humanity to do things God's way. And when we do that, things will work out. So whichever way we go, it's going to work out. As he said, everything happens, for a reason. What men mean for evil, or even if they don't, they mean it for selfish purposes, God will turn it for the good. Okay? He's in control. And moving into the third and final thing I'd like to say here. That is why it's important for us to be watchmen on the wall. That's a big theme here at Christian Center Shreveport. I'm sure you've probably heard someone say it or mention it. This program is called Noon Prayer Watch. The word watch at the end indicates, we're on the wall, we're watching. We have the, countdown for every single program on these channels. Our worship team's song, we are, I'm a watchman, that plays, right? And this has been a big theme in this church for a long time. When Pastor Tim became the pastor back in the 90s, there was a situation. The church was in debt, lots of debt. And I was like, 8, 9, 10 or whatever. I was really young. So I don't know. This is, testimony from the perspective of a child at the time. I'm not an adult. I don't know the details. I might get some of the details wrong. But I remember when Pastor Tim became pastor, there was a lot of debt. And I knew what debt was. I knew that much. But what they did was in the foyer, in the lobby, where we have a kitchen, they put a big, like a styrofoam kind of poster up, and it was decorated, and had how much debt we had or how much money we needed to raise to eliminate the debt, and had these like soldiers, right? And I don't remember how it worked exactly, but basically they were like, we have this debt, we need to take it. And the whole theme was Nehemiah's wall, right? If you've read the story in the Bible about Nehemiah building the wall and how much trouble he had doing that, and how dire it seemed, but he did it anyway because it was the right thing to do. If you haven't read the story, please go check it out. It's a cool story. It's in the book of Nehemiah, obviously. Ezra and Nehemiah, those two together have a story there. But I just remember, the members of the church at the time, they were paying and we were praying, and the money came in, and in a short amount of time, this giant fell, and the wall was built. Because what did they do? They had a problem back in the day. Pastor Tim and the leadership and the members of the church, they had a problem. They sat down. Okay, this is what we need to do. They're led by the Holy Spirit. We have this wall we need to build. And yes, it seems daunting, and it's going to take all of these years, but we're going to do it. And they did it. And I say that just to say that this whole theme of Nehemiah's wall, building the wall, regardless of what the circumstances around you are like, is a big part of this ministry. It's a big part of our identity. And all these years later, it still is. And we have this program with the name Watch in it, and it's about being a watchman on the wall. And this world is crazy. Life is crazy. And, it gets kind of frustrating because, you see all this bad stuff happening and you want to do something about it, but you can't do anything about it because you only have so much power. And your city, your state, your country, or whatever, it only has so much power. And that is if you can even get along to get something done in the first place, to use that power and authority and ability. And all you need to do is figure out what you can do and do that. That you take a first step. You have your place, your portion, your destiny. And I know a lot of you out there, I'm probably preaching to the choir here. I know a lot of you out there know this, but we have to be reminded of it. I have to remind myself of it because we get frustrated sometimes. We get agitated. We get discouraged by what's happening sometimes. It's one thing to read the Bible and talk about this is what we need to do, but then when push comes to shove, we got to actually apply this to the actual situation we're in right now. Sometimes you don't think about all of the theory, and you're like, how do we even solve this problem, right? And so you have what you have to do. You have your portion of the wall, your spot that you have to patrol, you have to be a watchman on, and you got to do that. And you got to you encourage the other, the guy beside you, anybody you have you have authority over, if you have authority over anybody, and you got to let the Lord take care of the rest because you've done your portion. And we here in Japan, we do, as this is a pretty good example, or a point on this. One of the things we do ministry wise is we have like teaching seminars online on Zoom or other programs with churches here in Japan. And so we get, Pastor Tim, Pastor Scott Hooper, Pastor John West, other people. They'll come online and we'll hook them up to, some church here in Japan. And, we have a little training seminar, right? So last week we had Pastor Scott Hooper. He ministered for us, talked about probably something very similar to what he talked about on Sunday, if you watch that. But he was talking about intercession and doing things, changing your environment and all that kind of stuff. And so at the end of this teaching session, it was a question and answer time, and one young man raised his hand and he asked this question. He said, when I watch the news and I see politicians being corrupt and people getting murdered, I get so angry, and I'm angry because I can't do anything about it. How do we do something about this, Pastor Scott? So he asked this question, and Pastor Hooper gave a very long response. It was a very good response. But in a nutshell, he said, you start small. Do what you can in your life, with your family, with your church, with your community. And if you can overcome those problems, move on to your city, move on to your state, your country, your nation. But you got to be responsible. You have to be a good steward with what you have right now, with what area of authority you have right now. And so we're looking at national problems, but have we solved all of the problems in our families? Have we solved all of the problems in our churches and in our communities? I would probably venture to guess that that's a no. And so it's very easy to get frustrated by this national big picture, but that doesn't directly affect you a lot of the time. Sometimes it can, but it doesn't really affect you a lot of the times. What's happening in your family every day affects you, and at your job, in your church, in your community, in your city. Those are the things that affects you, and those are the things that you have the most potential for impacting. And so that's what we need to do. We gotta, don't get distracted by what's happening over there. Look at what's in front of us. That's what we need to do. That's what I need to do. And I have to remind myself of that all of the time. It was a fantastic response from Pastor Hooper. And yeah, so I thank him for that. And so I'm sure everybody out there knows this. God is a God of order, not of chaos. He is not the author of confusion. We are made in his image. We are therefore to bring order to chaos. And even if it's a little bit, you start with a little bit, you show that you were a good steward, and then you move up a level. Now, we don't do things for promotion. We don't do things for the fruit or for the reward, as that means our motives are not impure. But that fruit will come, those rewards will come, and those blessings will come. And the blessings, the fruit in the future will be sweeter than that in the past. It's easy to think about the past and romanticize it and be nostalgic. Oh, how great things were back then and how bad things are right now. But we can change now. We can't change the past. We can only change how we feel about it. We can change where we're at right now, and that's where we need to put our focus into. And working with God, advancing with him, building his kingdom. That's how we get those things done. God is a good father who knows what we need even before we ask. Don't forget that. And it's hard. Everybody knows that, I'm sure, but we have to remind ourselves of that. And so that happened to me this week. He was blessed. He blessed me this week in that regard. So I thank him for that. And I hope he does the same to you in the future. So don't forget, be thankful, and let's advance the kingdom together. Okay, that is all I have for this week. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell. Interact with our content. The algorithm likes that. It spreads it a little bit more. This is a very small way you can help support this ministry, among other ways that you, of course, already know about. So this is Jacob. Be blessed. Thank you.